What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here from the Real Estate Experts Podcast. In my experience, one of the biggest bottlenecks when it comes to real estate investing, house flipping, is raising capital. You can find good deals, you can find good construction, you can get the work done, but how can you raise capital? If you're wondering on how to raise capital, this next guest on the Real Estate Experts Podcast has raised anywhere from $3 to $4 million throughout his career through his nonprofit. He currently is the Director of Development for Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada. Let's roll into the intro and get into the interview.
Welcome to Real Estate Experts. Join us to democratize the secrets to real estate for everyone, everywhere. Thank you for being here. Let's see what our experts have to say today.
What is up, Will? How's it going, man?
Hey, Tyson, great to be here. Been really, really great actually lately. So yeah, thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, awesome. Those of you that don't know, this is William Abbott. He is the Director of Development for Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada. And some of you might be wondering, okay, what does Junior Achievement, a nonprofit, have to do with raising capital for real estate investing? I personally think that there's a lot of parallels when it comes to raising capital in general. Will, can you give the people a little bit of a background on you?
Yeah. So I'll tell a little bit of how I got into raising money and how I got into working for a nonprofit. And then some of my mentors kind of along the way that kind of guided me in the right direction. So growing up in Arizona, one of my mentors, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Will, you should consider working for the Boy Scouts." And I'm an Eagle Scout, so I got to go up through the program. I loved it. And I remember I was getting my business degree, and his name was Clint Lawton. And I literally laughed in his face. I said, "Clint, I love the Boy Scouts. I love you. But I got big dreams here, baby. I got a business degree. I'm doing way bigger things than just hiking with kids." And so he kind of laughed back, and he realized, he goes, "You have no idea kind of what I do for my job." And at the time, Clint, he was what I am now, which is a Director of Development. And he was kind of off in the community raising millions of dollars. And we kind of, again, this is just about 10 years ago, we created an internship, and I got to shadow Clint as him as a Director of Development, me at the time, a young college kid. And I learned really quickly and really simply that raising money is my shock, everybody. It's not super, super hard. In fact, it's really, really simple. And it's almost more about just connecting the dots of who you know. And I'm sure you've all heard this a ton of times. It's who you know is way more important than just about what you know or anything else like that kind of deal. So got involved with the Boy Scouts, had a great career with them, and then recently just transitioned to Junior Achievement. So we teach over 20,000 kids here in Las Vegas about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and workforce development. So kind of showing kids different career paths and different things. Like myself, I literally had no idea that you could be a professional Boy Scout or a professional fundraiser. Didn't even know that was an existence kind of deal. So Junior, that's kind of what Junior Achievement does here in Las Vegas, and have been just loving it ever since kind of deal.
Awesome. So mainly with Junior Achievement, because you're with the Boy Scouts and now you're with Junior Achievement. So they predominantly focus on entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and what was the other component?
Financial literacy, workforce. We call it workforce readiness. So kind of exposing them to different career paths and entrepreneurship. So.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned in the introduction, I feel personally, and then we've had deep conversations about this too, man, like that there's parallels. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think a lot of people in the real estate space are so stuck on like, oh, I got to find people that are only in the real estate space to help them solve these problems or situations in real estate. And that's why I was like, hey, man, Will, you got to come on. You got to talk about how you've been able to raise millions of dollars throughout your career. Would you agree that there are parallels with raising money in real
Absolutely.
estate
Yeah.
and nonprofit? Yeah.
And I'll say this, which has been really kind of fun through my, I'll say, personal exploration. A lot of my donors are also heavily invested in real estate, and so they've made, on my side a donation, and on the real estate side, not a donation but an investment. And this is, I'll say this, the number one rule in fundraising, whether it's real estate related or nonprofit related, the number one rule, and again, this is really simple, is that people give to people, or in the real estate term, it's people invest in people. So in my experience, gotten to talk to several of my donors who've, given thousands and thousands of dollars. I've asked them, and I've asked them that specific question: when you're investing in a VC project, in a real estate project, in anything, I always ask them, I'm curious from your mindset, somebody with capacity, what's the number one thing that you look for in a project? And surprising, but also not surprising, the number one thing, it's not, what's the percentage return, or what's, how much money. The number one thing that always comes up over and over again is I'm investing in the person. And that's what I'm betting my money on, because you can put projections and you can write a big number or whatever it is. But if you come to the table and say, I'm making an investment pitch deck, and I'm fumbling over my words, or some news story came out that I'm a fraud and I'm stealing money, there's zero chance that anybody is going to give any money to that. So it's really an investment in the person. So I like to say people give to people, or people invest in people. So Tyson, if you ask for an investment from me, I'm gonna think to myself, do I trust Tyson? That's the first thing I'm thinking of. And do I know Tyson? And then after that first category is passed, then I start asking the more layered and detailed questions, like, what's my return? What is it? What's it cost to get into this deal? What's it cost to get out of this? So can I add two more quick things to that kind of deal?
Man, I'm just here hosting the stream. This is your show. I've written down a few things already. Yeah, please go ahead, man.
I like I meant kind of the parallels go from raising money for a nonprofit and raising money for a real estate investment. Like I said, the number one thing is people give to people or invest in people. And kind of along with a few of my donors and a few of my mentors in the real estate space, I asked them that specific thing. What are other questions or objections you might get? And again, one of my mentors, he always would say, again, really simply, a confused mind says no. So if I say, Tyson, I've got this great idea, we're going to make water bottles, but then we're going to recycle, we're going to turn that into some kind of decoration, and then something else happens and something else. And there's a lot of weird stuff in there. Typically people who have kind of the capacity and ability to invest in those kind of higher projects, they got there because they were able to kind of simplify what they're saying yes or no to. And if it gets, again, too complicated, or they don't know what they're getting into, they'll say no. And so I like to always think a confused mind always says no. So with that, the other two questions that I've heard investors will always ask, the two top ones, other than, do I know this person? Do I trust this person? So it's always the person first. The two other ones is, number one is, when do I get my investment back? So the timeline, which again kind of goes into that specific focus kind of category. And the second one is obviously, how much do I get back? So if you can, off the back, if you're making an investment pitch or deck for somebody, if I can say if I'm building an apartment complex and I want to pitch it to Tyson here, and I say, it's going to be a really awesome complex and it's going to have a lot of fountains and stuff, do you want to send me money? Typically that answer is going to be no, because it's not specific and it's very vague, right? Versus Tyson, we're building a 20-unit high luxury apartment complex. And if you invest, say, $500,000, we can get you all of your money back within 3 years. And then we can promise you that you're going to get a 20% return on your money that you're investing with us today. That's a very much more, really kind of basic, but very simple. You can think about that now, right? And I've seen so many pitches, again, on the nonprofit side, and I've sat in on a few kind of VC pitches where we do all this shiny, fancy stuff, and they use a lot of buzzwords, or they might say, we're going to build the next whatever it is, but it's not a specific ask. And in the end of it, it's answer those questions. When do I get my money back? And how much money am I going to get back after I give you the money? So,
man, I love, dude, right off the bat, man, hitting homers off the bat, just to kind of recap, what you were saying is relationships are key. Yeah. Relationships are key. People give to people that they like. That's just like with sales.
Yeah, exactly.
People buy, people sell to people that they like. The other thing is, don't make the ask too complicated or complex. Have a precise, ask and description on what you're doing. And then 2 other components was the timeline. When will said person get their money back? Months, years, and then the ROI, the return on investment, whether that's a percentage or a dollar amount. I think these are all super great nuggets, man. I don't want people to go out and I think, what I got a lot of thoughts going on right now. One is people think that people don't have money, so they're afraid to ask. But maybe you can attest to this, that you will actually be surprised that the people that have money are inconspicuous and don't often talk about it, but they are familiar with the returns in the marketplace.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've connected or met with a high net worth individual that their name is on, the stadium, like literally their name is on the stadium, and they're dressed in, jeans and a t-shirt or whatever it might be. But I always say, don't let, don't judge a book by its cover. And just to agree with you totally, there is an unlimited amount of, we'll say, capital out there and people that are open and willing to invest in something like that. So, and again, I can't say that enough. It's all about relationships. Well, you go ahead, Tyson. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, if somebody's looking to raise capital for a particular project, don't go out there and just burn your bridge and ask, hey, I need money. This is the timeline. I don't really know what we're doing, but I need money. I think, when you ask for money, you got to have some type of either experience, in real estate, for example, real estate investing or acquiring assets. You got to have some type of experience, some type of prior Rolodex of projects that you've done, maybe a return on investment, some timelines, a quick pro forma, nothing crazy. You got to have that, or you partner with somebody, or you're able to answer questions and confidently dismiss any concerns when it comes to having somebody borrow money.
I totally agree with that.
Now, when it comes to finding people to get money, what are some strategies that you have found very fruitful for raising money in the nonprofit setting? And how can somebody that's looking to get started to raise money get started?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Occasionally I'll volunteer and I'll get to speak to a class of high school kids and explain kind of what I do. And that's one of the big questions that comes up. So I'll explain it like explaining to a high school freshman. If you think in say, if you travel back in time and you're in high school, if you wanted to meet a football player that played for the school, think of where you would go to meet that person. And it's not super hard to think of, they all eat lunch at the same place, or they hang out at the same movie theater, or that, that's it's a profile really, right? Or they hang out together at X spot. Or if you wanted to find somebody who was in drama club, think of that profile, right? It's a certain person that likes certain things and acts a certain way, and they hang out with a certain group of people. This may shock a lot of you, but people of kind of high net worth, they like to hang out with other people of high net worth. So really relatively simple. I'll use like Rotary Club, our local Las Vegas Rotary Club is a great example. Ton of community leaders in there, but also what's even almost better is there's a ton of people that are connectors within that specific organization. So say going to, and those are kind of just more out there examples, but say if you go to in my selfish brain, if you go to say our junior achievement fundraising luncheon, you're going to find at that luncheon, you might run into the CFO of the Raiders, or you might run into the regional bank president of the new bank that's coming into town, or you might run into, the wife of X person that might actually have more kind of a door opening power, so to speak. So put yourself in those scenarios where you're going to run into people with that profile. And that's kind of a little bit more geared toward kind of community fundraising sense, but that same thought applies. Like, are you going to go to the really sketchy neighborhood at nighttime and just start asking, hey, does anybody want to send me money? Probably not going to be very successful. If you go to the local country club, or say you find somebody to invite you to the local country club to do breakfast, you think you'll probably bump into other people there. And it's really as simple as, hey, Tyson, I bumped into you. It was great meeting you at the country club. Here's my contact information. Let's switch. I would love to talk to you more about this project I'm working on. And that's a really cool intro. You could do it over a Zoom call. You could go back to the country club, meet somebody else. You could do a lunch. And all of a sudden now, Tyson, I bumped into you for 5 seconds at that luncheon, or for 5 seconds at whatever event in the community. And I would love to just, could we carve out 30 minutes to talk about a fun project I'm involved in? And right there, you're starting to build your database, essentially. So think of that profile of a person that you're really going after, and think of where they hang out and where they hang out, essentially. Does that kind of help guide in that direction?
Oh yeah, man. There were some nuggets there. What I got from that is, hang around where wealthy, rich people hang out. Just like you mentioned, you're not going to go to the hood, demographically speaking, to find somebody that you would find at a country club, Dragon Ridge Country Club here, or a charity event. I think charity events are a great networking opportunity. They kind of give twofold. They give, an energetic giving, in abundance to give, to go to the charity event. And then in return, you're around people that also like to give, or they like to give. And then also there is a tax benefit to giving in some space, right?
Oh,
so, and typically wealthy, rich people, they do that because if tax season's coming up, on top of like being deep rooted in the cause of the foundation, but there's also a tax benefit to it. And then the other like nug that I got from you right now is relationships. This is like hammering down. Relationships are so key. You can meet somebody just like, I met you,
Yeah. Yeah.
at, and we actually met at the dog park. Um, and just kind of through that, it was a quick interaction, and we've just developed relationship over time. And we've shared contacts and, done stuff. It's the
Jumped off
relationships
a
are,
building.
we jumped off, yeah, we jumped off a building. That was pretty cool. That was pretty gnarly. Like, I just jumped off a building. So yeah, relationships are key, and then hang around areas that, people hang around, like, for example, like Lifetime Athletic Club is a higher end gym.
Mhm.
Just areas of town, and also, hanging around those people, in my experience, also raises like my inner being, like my inner confidence and worthiness to be around those people too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
What have you?
Go ahead, Tyson.
I was just going to say, like, what have you found like the most difficult thing when it comes to raising capital?
The most difficult thing, I'll say, and this is kind of an internal thing, but I always like to address it because it's a real thing. One of the most difficult things to raising capital is actually just getting in front of somebody and making the ask. I know specifically in fundraising, I know so many of my peers that they were okay, but they couldn't make it to the next level, and that's simply because they didn't feel comfortable making the ask, right? And that's it's really, again, I think of it as easy because I've practiced this and done this so many times, but I'd say the hardest thing is literally that emotion of fear of, is Tyson not going to like me if I ask him for money? Or is that going to be weird for a relationship? I'll wait until the next one, or this other, big community individual. Is that going to be weird if is he going to look at me differently? Or whatever that fear is. I think that's from talking with other folks, that's the biggest barrier to raising capital, is just getting over that fear. And I always, when my other mentor says, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen if you ask somebody and they say no? That's it. I've done it for 10 years. Nobody's punched me in the face for asking them for money. In fact, I've asked people at the wrong level, which is kind of a fun exercise in a sense. So I've asked people that could give me $1,000, but couldn't give me the $50,000. And I kind of misprojected them. So when I asked for the $50,000, they weren't upset at me. They almost blushed and were like, oh my gosh, you thought I could give that. Like, I definitely can't, but I appreciate you thinking of me of that level. I can give you $1,000 though, but not your $50,000 you're looking for. And but I really think it's overcoming that fear and just making the ask. The other thing, like when we get into I call it the actual sale of whether it's a gift for a nonprofit or getting somebody to agree to invest with you in a project, is not only getting over that fear, but being okay and comfortable in I call it the awkward pause, if you will. So after, and my favorite example of this is a wedding proposal. So, and kind of a weird example to transition to, but
yeah.
So being comfortable in just a pause. So I say, Tyson, I've gotten to know you over the last few months. I want to tell you about this really cool project. It's, we're building 20-unit luxury apartment complex. We're seeking an investment of $500,000, and you're going to get your money back in 2 to 3 years. It's going to be a 20% return. Tyson, would you consider investing in this project? And right after I ask, I have to shut up. I have to not say anything, and I got to be comfortable in that silence void. Kind of, it's the saying of whoever speaks first loses. So as soon as I make the ask, Tyson, would you consider investing in this project with me and my partners? And I just got to be quiet. It sounds right. You got to wait, because Tyson, you might be thinking of other questions or other, objections, or you might be thinking, do I trust Will? Yes, I like this, right? But you got to be totally comfortable in that pause. So would you do this? Then you shut up. And I use my favorite example of that, because a lot of people envision salespeople as like really fast talkers that can just talk around everything, and it's really not the case. My favorite example of that, like I said, is a wedding proposal. If for those of you out there who are married, you made the ultimate kind of sell of a proposal, right? When you asked that woman to marry you, what did you say after you said, "Will you be my wife"? You didn't say anything. You nailed it. Ideally, you said, "Will you spend the rest of your life with me?" Blank. And then you waited for them to answer you. And so that's my favorite sale example, is a wedding proposal, because people have done it before. So it's like, oh, I have done this before, just with my wife. So,
and you would hope, right? Like, you would hope that all of the things leading up to the ask were done correctly, right? This definitely coincides with sales. I ran a bunch of sales teams districtly. I don't even know that's a word, but throughout the district.
It's a word now.
I'll take the word. But there's I lost my train of thought. But you would hope that the buildup, the relationship building, like the overcoming objections, the timelines, the return on investment, the pre-qualification type questions and relationship things were done enough to, by the time that you ask, it's a yes, I do have the money. Yes, I'm willing to do this. Or no, right? Mm-hmm. No, it's A, because maybe I don't see the value in it, or I just don't have the money for it, right? Yeah. So, not being scared of the no, and then also being able to develop enough rapport and overcome objections along the way to get that ask.
The only thing I'd add to that, Tyson, is, and I've seen this and again in real estate investment and even in my world in nonprofit investing, if you will, is that some people will use that as an excuse to not ask. And I only say that because I've seen it. So I've known Tyson for a while now. I'm going to ask him, but let me continue building a relationship for another, 6 months to a year before I ask, because he might say no now, but maybe 6 months later, he'll say yes when have a better relationship. I only say that is, again, because I've seen it, where people will think we've got this big fish on the line, but we want to massage him a little bit more. And there's really, if you're really upfront with people and you say, Tyson, I met you yesterday. And I'm not saying to do this right off the get, but Tyson, I met you yesterday. Let me do lunch. Let's talk. I want to tell you a little bit about my project. Successful people kind of like that, because you're not wasting their time. You're building relationship, and you're saying, this is what I'm working on. Would you want to be a part of it? And they'll say, yeah, that sounds really cool. Let me hear more. Or, and they'll tell you, let me get to know you for another few months, and I want to see how that project went. Maybe I'll invest in the next one. Or they'll say, no, not right now. But either way, a lot of times people kind of in that scope or realm will say, thank you for not kind of hanging out or wasting my time. I really appreciate you coming right up front and telling me what you're working on, kind of deal. So is that make sense? Sorry,
Oh yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. So I think it's important for people to like actively know what you're working on, personally and professionally. I think I think there's a big uh, I think we underestimate. Uh, we don't actually calculate how little people know about what we do, right? Just
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, yeah,
So how much we underestimate actually how much work is required to communicate what we actually do for business and personally and what we're cultivating in the world. We underestimate how many people like how much work it actually takes to do that.
yeah,
So it's like a constant flow of like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. you know i I see it so often. People post once or twice, a month on Instagram, or share some success story once or twice with a person that they met once or twice, and they expect that person to know what you're doing in the world.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not the
yeah.
case.
I know I always start out with like with my nonprofit. I anything I do, I assume, and I did this even with the Boy Scouts. Even the Boy Scouts are a little their brand is a little bit more well known, but I still assume that the person I'm talking to has no clue what we do. And I always start at like a 40,000 foot like zone of hey, just to, even if I think you've heard of this, I'll remind people and say, junior achievement, we serve 20,000 kids here in Las Vegas, and we teach them financial literacy, workforce readiness, and entrepreneurship. And that's kind of, the very top level. And people go, oh my gosh, yeah, I totally remember, or I got you mixed up with some other organization, but now I remember what you guys do and how important this is for the community, kind of deal.
I love that, man. How important is your personal presentation when you're speaking to other individuals to fundraise?
You only get one shot, so you get one chance to kind of, they always say you get one first impression, and it's funny too, because I've seen this again go both ways, where like myself, I've underdressed for an occasion, and that was really, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have, and that internally you feel like, oh man, I should have put a blazer on, or I should have put a tie on today, and I'm in a room full of people in tuxedos, and I've even overdressed, where I was in a nice suit and tie, and the person I was talking to was, they had a whole bunch of different investments, had several companies, very high net worth individual, but we met them at their beach house in Newport, and they were in flip flops and shorts, and I showed up in a full suit and tie. So again, you got to kind of gauge your audience, obviously, but absolutely, know your audience is one, but being, you only get one for good first impression. If I show up and I've got a mustard stain on here, it shows really quickly, shows really through. This guy's kind of a slob. He doesn't take care of himself, so probably he's not going to do a good job taking care of my money. I don't, that the whole perception is reality is infinitely true. Especially as we talked about the constant need. There's so much information and data out there right now. The constant need to always, inform your audience, this is the project I'm working on. If, maybe we had a news commercial, or maybe we had a big social media campaign, but I always assume they don't know anything about, the nonprofit, or in this case, an investment I'm working on, kind of deal. So that's for my 2 cents of know your audience and absolutely present yourself well. You only get one first impression.
Man, I love that. I love that. You had said something that moved me, and that was, if this person is a slob, and that is an identifying factor on he or she doesn't take good care of themselves. So how are they supposed to take care of my money or my business?
Yeah.
All these things run and intertwine with one another. Uh, to either cultivate your personal life or your business life.
Oh yeah, I
Love
totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Great,
Love it.
great question, Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Man, do you have anything to kind of wrap up on, and maybe some key points to share or to recap for anybody that's looking to raise capital either for their next project or just wanting to learn about, you and what Junior Achievement does?
I'll say this: if you're looking to get into raising capital, in the fundraising space, we've got. I'm trying to think. Like essentially, there's one good metric. I call it a leading indicator rather than a lagging one. So not how much money have you raised, but what controllable thing are you doing to like get toward that? So, if I want to lose 20 pounds, the leading indicator might be how many times am I exercising and how many, healthy meals am I eating? And that affects the outcome of how many pounds I've lost. In fundraising, the number one and really kind of only leading indicator are how many asks am I making? Right? Because the old Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so, if you're looking to get into raising capital, I would write down the first step. I would write down your top 10. Just think of your top 10 people that you think might have the ability to invest in your project, and kind of mentally rank them and say, okay, I think this guy could do this much, in a perfect world. Or Uncle Fred has, he's got a family business. I could ask him, and then put a date next to all of those people and say, okay, Tyson, I think he can do this much. And I'm gonna, I can talk to him in 3 weeks because I know he's kind of busy and I'm kind of busy. So I'm gonna put a date here. That's when I'm gonna ask him, right? And so I list, if you're just starting out, write a list of 10 people, kind of set your goal, and write a date next to it that I'm gonna ask this person or inform this person of the project I'm working on by this date. And you'll be so surprised that when you come up with that specific ask, you say, this is the project I'm working on, Uncle Ted. Let me tell you more about this. This is what we're looking for. Would you be interested in doing something like this with us? And then you just listen to what they have to say. So that would be my 2 cents for getting started in raising money. And like I said, Junior Achievement, you can find us online. It's been the most fun to get. Like I said, I got to work with the Boy Scouts for about 10-ish years before working with Junior Achievement or JA for short. And it's amazing to see the impact that we get all those kind of principles that we're talking about. We take that and we deliberately and intentionally teach that to kids and show them, hey, this is how to be confident. This is how you sell stuff. When you're coming up with a business idea, our past luncheon. Can I share a short story?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I always like to share this because I was just watering at the end of this thing. At our last luncheon we had the CFO was the CFO of the Raiders. He was our keynote speaker, and so he went on before. And the main program though was we had 4th graders go through our program called It's My Business, and it's a 6-week program where we take 4th graders, we put them in teams of 4, and they come up with their own business idea, and they have to essentially, like Shark Tank, they have to pitch their idea. In this case, there was 10 teams, and only 3 of them got to present at the luncheon in front of the crowd of 400 kind of business leaders. Wow. And just kind of each one of those 3 was awarded a scholarship. So kind of like Shark Tank, there's money on the line here. And so it was the coolest thing. So my favorite part of that whole event was right before the event, we picked the 3 teams, and there's a small little African-American 4th grader boy who wasn't picked. And he came and he tugged on my suit and goes, "Hey, I wasn't picked, man." I go, "Yeah, it's kind of how life is. You win or you lose, but you got to learn from this experience," which is kind of tough to tell a little, African-American 4th grader. and he starts watering and crying. And he goes, I missed my chance for a scholarship. I'm never going to college. My future is ruined. And he told that to me the day out. And I'm like, oh my, what do you say to that? So fast forward, Michael Crome, the CFO of the Raiders, he's also an African-American. And he came from a really underprivileged kind of community, like underserved community. Not this really just the ultimate underdog story. And he tells a story of how one of his first junior achievement experiences was another African-American that came in and told about the world of finance. And he, up to that point, he never saw anybody else, the same skin color, that looked like him, that talked like him, explain and say, there's a whole career in finance. And Michael always says that's what kind of took him and led him down the path where he, got involved in finance and has been obviously very successful. And at the end of that luncheon, I saw that same little African-American fourth grader taking a picture with Michael Crome and like giving a thumbs up. And he came up, the little guy came up to me afterwards, and it was so uplifting that he like tugged on my shirt again and says, hey, mister, I don't need your scholarship. I can make my own company and I can do whatever I want. And I was just like, yes, you freaking can, guy. Like that's, and you see this impact you make on like I said, 20,000 different kids across Las Vegas. And that, to me, that's kind of why I get to wake up in the morning and know that you're got a little fingerprint on that. So it's JA or Junior Achievement. We're doing great stuff in the community, and we're kind of ramping up and starting to do even more kind of deal. So yeah, Tyson, yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Dude, what a great way to wrap that, man. Will, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your robust knowledge about raising capital, fundraising, your professional experience, man. Where can they find any additional information regarding Junior Achievement or any projects that you guys are in or anything in the community? Where can they find you?
You can, this sounds generic, and it is, but it's good so you can remember it. Go to Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada.org. You can find my contact in there, or if you want to reach out to me personally, my email is will.abbott, ABBOTT @JA.org. But if you want to reach out and get involved in what we're doing with Junior Achievement and helping kids, I would be more than happy to just connect with you and kind of show you all the different things that we can get involved in. And yeah. Thank you so much, Tyson. At Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada.org.
I love it, man. Will, thank you so much. Really appreciate you hopping on. Let's roll the outro. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Tyson.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I have tremendous gratitude for our guests and you listening now for joining our mission of democratizing real estate education around the world. If you want to learn more from our experts, our mission, and get involved, then please visit realestateexperts.org to get started. Who knows? You might even be a guest on a future episode.
Bro, can you say banger? Oh my God. Dude, you were dropping gems, man. I got a notepad full of stuff. That was straight heat, man.
Oh,
I thought
thanks,
you were
man.
Wade in the threes, man. Dude, you were doing great. That's super awesome.
I hope that was what you were looking for. Thank you, Tyson. I
Dude, it was
appreciate
great,
that, buddy.
dude. Yeah, man. No, dude, like you're always buckets of knowledge, man. It's great.
Oh,
You're
thank
always,
you, Tyson.
yeah, man. Like I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time out today and really just sharing everything, man.
Of course.
Yeah, man. You're super inspirational, man. I love what you're doing at Junior Achievement, brother.
Thank you, Tyson. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man. I look forward to getting together with you, man. Here in the next week or so. So
yeah, would love it. Like I said, Tyson, thank you too so much. I feel like you help elevate me, so I appreciate you so much, man. Really do. It's Yeah. They say whatever the saying is, like rising tides and doing good stuff kind of deal. But really appreciate you, Tyson. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here, brother. Well, cool, man. I'll send you the raw footage of this, and
Cool.
yeah, man. Yeah, we can get jamming, man. I'll shoot you a text here later on today, and
Michael.
And yeah, man, we'll catch you in a bit, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, man.
All right.
Cheers, Tyson.
Cheers. Later.